Okay, Instagram, I wanted to do this video and to comment on this back-forth exchange that's happening publicly between Kim and Kanye. Not because I'm interested in celebrity feuds or divorces, but because I think this is actually a topic that's really important for all parents to be discussing as we kind of get into this new age of digital media and social media and children having access to things that we didn't have access to when we were kids. I'm 32 years old. We did not have access to TikTok and Twitter and Facebook and any other social media app when I was young. And this is a very important topic. So to give you guys a background, if you're not following it, Kanye has been very, very vocal for a long time, before the divorce, about wanting his kids to be kids when they grow up, meaning he was very against North, his daughter. She's 8 years old, and even in years prior, she was wearing makeup and wearing lipstick, and he was very against that. He's been vocal about the fact that he doesn't want his child on social media. So this is not a new thing that's happening because they're getting divorced. It's just coming to a head because they're getting divorced. And Kim obviously has a different perspective on it because she was okay with her wearing makeup and she's okay with her daughter having social media. Kim's daughter is North. We know of North and we know all of their kids because they have been on, reality TV their entire lives. And North is, for the record, 8 years old. So this is something that parents all around the world should be aware of. It is not an assumption. It is a reality. Brigham Young University actually did a study last year to show that children that are introduced to social media have a propensity, higher rates of suicide and a propensity toward suicide. Adults included. Obviously, we understand that social media has depressive effects, and it's basically allowing you a window to look into the lives of people and to have this perception that their life is better than yours. So it's basically you just stacking up and going, oh, I wish I had that life. Oh, I wish I had that life. I wish I had that husband, that body, that face. And it causes depression. And if you're an adult, you might be able to deal with that depression. But for young kids, it's a lot. I don't know why it took a study confirming it from Brigham University to confirm that social media is harmful for children, when really this is common sense. We're seeing things that we've never seen before. We're seeing people that are 12 and 13 wanting to get their lips injected, to want to get boobs, to want to get butt implants, to want to do all of these things extraordinarily, especially for children. And when I look at these people that are so young and they're getting these implants, I'm thinking to myself, when I was this age, I wasn't even thinking about how I looked. 8 years old before I even had braces. To put that into perspective, we're talking about third graders. This is not, you're not even interested in guys. You really just want to color with your friends. I think I was in Spice World at that time, listening to Spice Girls, wanting to dance with friends and have sleepovers. So we're not talking about someone that's even on the brink of maturity. We're talking about an extremely young child who's extremely vulnerable, who should not have access to the internet and have 5 million followers as she has, which is already, to me, something that is harmful. Why are there 5 million people in the world that want to follow the every action of my child? I choose not to put my kid on the internet at all, because I want my child to be able to have that choice, and I want my child to also be able to make that choice when their brain is developed. Something that's extremely problematic here, and why I wanted to speak out, is because Kim's response to this, obviously Kanye posted this publicly, and he has made several pleas about just keeping his kids off social media. And I'm not claiming to know the ins and the outs of their relationship, but something that was extremely problematic is that Kim, in her response, writes that he's controlling. This is him being controlling and obsessive, and sort of all of these buzzwords that women use when they want to make themselves look like they're being victimized by a man. And she specifically says that, North needs this as a creative outlet, and kind of suggests that, the divorce has already been traumatic enough for them. And, giving this child TikTok, somehow helps to alleviate some of the traumas that they may be experiencing. That is a completely unacceptable excuse. Your child does not need social media to deal with any traumas. You have a child that's stuck between two billionaires. Tons of people have gone through divorces, come from divorced families. I'm one of them. This is not something that is necessary to heal from a divorce whatsoever. In fact, I would almost argue the exact opposite. And it's super unfair because in this particular regard, actually, Kanye is doing the right thing. He's protecting his child from the public. I think part of this is that obviously Kim is Kim Kardashian, so she's lived her entire life publicly. She takes a stab at Kanye for talking about this publicly, when in reality, she has welcomed all of the world into every aspect of her lives for years. So this is just a victim claim, pretending that you care, that there's a public discussion about this when we've watched your family members pull their babies out of their vaginas on TV doesn't make sense. Pretending that you want to protect your children when they've been on a show, which sure you had editing control over, but that doesn't really make sense to suddenly pretend that it's Kanye that's harming them by bringing this discussion to the forefront, especially because it's a very important discussion. We're talking about right now, there was a case, an 11-year-old girl, you can look it up. She killed herself, and her mother is now suing. The last name is Rodriguez. I can't think of her first name. Her mother is now suing Facebook and Snapchat, saying that they know how harmful that this, that the effects of and the addiction that comes from their products is, and yet they allow children access to it. And so this mother is currently engaged in a lawsuit with both Snapchat and Facebook. My personal opinion, it's the mom's fault, and you have decided to give your child this weapon. You know what this weapon is. You're shocked when your kid becomes addicted to this and becomes depressive. And unfortunately for a kid, they don't have yet within them, they don't possess the mechanism that it is to compartmentalize. So everything feels much larger when you're a kid, right? Think about your first breakup, whatever it was. I don't know how old you were when you had your first breakup, but I think I was 13. It was like one of those like fake relationships, but you think it's the end of the world. Everything becomes a suicide thing. When, you have a fallout with a friend, you think it's the end of the world. Kids feel in a way that is so much bigger and grander than adults do. And when you apply social media to that, they're not able to deal with a hurtful comment. I know that Kim has suspended comments on this, but, they're not able to deal with even a hurtful idea, thinking that this person is prettier than them or more mature than them, or wondering if guys like this better. They're not able to put that into the proper perspective because they have brains that are not developed. And Kanye, in this regard, and again, this isn't to say everything he's ever done has been amazing and everything Kim's done has been bad, but I think that Kim, kind of represents someone that is very pro social media. It's how she made her, how she made her brands, how she's made her living by giving more and more and more and more of herself. And unfortunately, she's not able to see the harmful effects of that. She's not able to assess her own addiction and her own obsession with social media. I mean, to me, you're talking about two billionaires. You've got if North needs a creative outlet from her divorce, Kim could go buy her a ranch in Wyoming, literally tomorrow, and say, here's a whole ranch. She could afford to bring Pablo Picasso back from the dead and say, here, paint with my daughter. I mean, she's got that much money. She could buy her whatever she wants as a creative outlet. She could buy her a plane and fly her to France, and have her dine amongst the stars. This is not an average family that has to deal with sadness or has to find a creative outlet in a tricky spot because they don't have resources. It is pointedly ridiculous to suggest that this is the only creative outlet that makes your child happy. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter if it makes your child happy. You are the adult for that reason. There's a lot of stupid things that kids want that they believe make themselves happy. We are arriving more and more in a society where people don't know what it means to be an adult, right? They don't know. They're constantly caving to what their kids want. Well, this is what my kid wanted. My kid just wanted social media, so I gave it them because they like it and it makes them happy. I don't care if it's giving them temporary happiness if you know that in the long run it's going to cause pain. It's going to cause addiction. So you have that addiction. You know how addicting social media is because you have that addiction. And so I just feel like Kanye deserves to be defended in this particular regard, because any man who understands even how they use social media, how men look at social media, the fact that there's 5 million strangers, how are you to know that amongst them are not pedophiles? There's been, pedophile networks that have been established on TikTok of people that are looking at kids. Why would you want your 8-year-old to be observed on an app, every second of their day? This is different from, moms that have social media and post their kids, once in a blue moon. When you are allowing your child to have social media, you have no idea, who is looking at your kid. And that is remarkably unfair to then castigate your significant other or former significant other and pretend that this is an obsession. It should be an obsession. Protecting your children and protecting our children should be an obsession. So if Kanye is obsessed with getting your daughter off social media, then may I suggest that you develop that obsession? Like, may I suggest that you develop wanting to protect your child from the world, wanting your kid to grow up, wanting your kid to be a normal third grader who wants to plan sleepovers with her girlfriends, who wants to, do an art project. I think for me, I was wanting to do gymnastics and jumping around. Like, there are other creative outlets. And if you are a parent and you really care about your child, no matter what your child is going through, you would want to protect them from the net. You would 100%. So we're speaking to a larger problem right now. And I think this is, like, as I said, like, I don't think the Kardashians are aware of their own addiction and obsession with social media. So they would not recognize those symptoms in someone else. They don't see any harm in it because they've made a living. And again, that's not to take a shot at Kim. I've met her. She's very kind and she's very nice. But, social media is her life. That's the point. Like, she's a nice person, but social media is her life, and she's not seeing clear on this. So just standing up for dads that kind of get caught, like, I just don't like the idea of the victim mentality of a woman saying, oh, he's obsessed and he's controlling. And, sure, he may be obsessive and controlling about different aspects, but on this particular one, Kanye West is 100% right and Kim is in the wrong. Get that child off social media. She's a child. She's 8 years old. You know that it leads to an increase in suicide rates amongst kids. These are devastating effects. There are multiple stories out there of parents saying, shoulda, woulda, coulda. I wish I did not allow my 8-year-old to develop this addiction. Don't be that parent that finds out too late, because you don't know. Kim, there was no social media when you were a kid. You were allowed to be a kid. You were allowed to be grubby. You were allowed to have braces. You were allowed to look weird and not develop that sense of like being self-conscious about yourself because you're suddenly able to see all of these other kids and see what they look like. You don't know that. So right now what you're doing is you're experimenting with North. You're experimenting with her. You're experimenting with her psychology. You're experimenting and assuming that it's going to be okay. I wouldn't let my child be the test dummy for social media in this age, and I don't think she should either. So just throwing a little support toward Kanye. Thanks, guys, for watching.